Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving deep into a true classic that has genuinely changed millions of lives. The new Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. This isn't just a book of, philosophical musings. It's a remarkably scientific, practical guide to self-improvement.
Really practical.
Yeah, originally penned by a plastic surgeon who, quite unexpectedly, stumbled upon profound psychological truths right there in his operating room.
Yeah.
Pretty wild, right?
It's an amazing origin story.
We've got excerpts from the updated edition, and it's just brimming with insights and techniques used by, everyone from NASA and Disney to Olympic athletes and top salespeople.
Yeah, the list is impressive.
So our mission in this deep dive is to really extract the most potent nuggets of knowledge, chapter by chapter, to give you a shortcut to understanding how your own inner mechanisms work, and crucially, how you can actually direct them for success.
And what's truly revolutionary here is how Dr. Maltz's unique background, observing that profound disconnect between physical transformation and psychological well-being, led him to discover the self-image.
That disconnect is key.
Absolutely. So this deep dive will explore each chapter's core concepts, revealing these practical strategies for transforming your self-perception and, consequently, your reality. We'll connect the dots between seemingly simple ideas and their, far-reaching implications.
Helping you understand not just what these techniques are.
Right, but why they genuinely matter to your everyday life and your biggest aspirations. Get ready for some genuine aha moments, because we're about to explore the incredible potential just waiting to be unlocked within you.
So Chapter 1. It immediately confronts us with what Dr. Maltz calls the most important psychological discovery of modern times. The self-image.
Quite a claim to start with.
It is.
No.
He describes it as this incredibly intricate, often unconsciously formed mental blueprint of, the sort of person I am. It's built from everything we've experienced. Every triumph, every humiliation, every success, every failure, and especially from how others, particularly in early childhood, reacted to us.
That early childhood piece seems critical.
Definitely. And this isn't just some vague idea. It's a complete, detailed picture that dictates so much of our lives. What we instinctively feel is easy or difficult, and what we believe we can and cannot accomplish.
And it's striking to see how precise its control is. Dr. Maltz uses that analogy of a thermostat.
Right.
Just as a thermostat precisely regulates temperature, your self-image controls your actions, your feelings, your behavior, even your abilities. Always keeping them consistent with this internal blueprint.
Always consistent. That's the kicker.
Exactly. He doesn't say it might be consistent. He says it's always consistent. So if your self-image believes you're only capable of reaching, say, a level X,
then X is where you stop.
You will only achieve X, regardless of how much conscious effort, willpower you put in. This really forces us to ask, if our actions are always consistent with this self-image, how much of what we perceive as external limitations or insurmountable obstacles are actually, self-imposed?
Yeah, are we building our own walls?
It suggests that raw willpower, that kind of teeth-gritted effort, isn't enough on its own. The real breakthrough and the real power lies in managing that inner self-image.
And this leads us directly to a really crucial paradox Dr. Maltz, as a plastic surgeon, observed. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
He saw patients who underwent incredible physical transformations, who, despite clear photographic evidence, would insist, I look just the same as before, you didn't do a thing.
Wow, even with photos.
Even with photos. This wasn't about the physical changes at all. It was about the self-image acting as a foundational premise for their entire personality and behavior. Their experiences just kept verifying and strengthening this internal belief, creating either a vicious cycle or, a beneficent one.
Like the student who thinks they're bad at math.
Exactly. The F-type student who consistently gets bad grades because they internally believe they're dumb in math, or the sales professional whose inner self-image dictates their perceived capabilities, regardless of the territory.
It truly underscores the profound power of our internal mental map over external reality. Dr. Maltz vividly describes these baffling cases where patients would just rationalize away clear physical results simply because their old personality was still wearing the new face.
The old personality and the new face. I like that.
It made it profoundly clear to him that a physical change, no matter how drastic, doesn't guarantee a personality change. The true battle for transformation, for genuine, lasting change, is always an internal one.
And this internal battle is precisely what led him from focusing solely on physical scars to recognizing what he called emotional scars.
Yeah.
Big leap.
Hugely.
He realized that while genuine physical disfigurements could be, miraculously transformed by surgery, People with perfectly normal or acceptable faces were often plagued by identical psychological handicaps. Shame, fears, anxieties, a profound sense of self-consciousness.
So the internal feeling matched the external scar, even without the scar.
Exactly. He noticed that if a physical scar enhanced the self-image, like a German duelist's saber scar, may be seen as a mark of honor.
Right.
Self-esteem actually increased.
Yeah.
But if it detracted, like a salesman's facial scar that he thought made him repulsive, self-esteem plummeted. It was the psychological effect that was key, not just the physical mark itself.
This raised a profound question for Dr. Maltz then. If our scars are mental or emotional, are we operating with self-imposed limitations that are just as debilitating as physical ones, yet entirely invisible to others? He became convinced that many patients needed more than just surgery. They needed a psychological, emotional, and spiritual facelift, a way to truly remove these internal emotional scars and channel their attitudes in a new direction.
And that realization was the genesis, really, of what he later called Psycho-Cybernetics and his discovery of the automatic success mechanism.
The ASM.
So Dr. Maltz posited that there's this incredible life instinct within us, constantly working towards health and happiness through what he calls the creative mechanism, or, when used correctly, the automatic success mechanism.
Or ASM, yeah.
He emphasizes that this mechanism is impersonal. It will automatically achieve any goal you set for it, whether that's success and happiness or unhappiness and failure.
That'll judge the goal.
No judgment. It's like any servo mechanism. It just needs a clear-cut target.
Yeah.
He even uses the amazing example of your brain handling like 10,000 emails in nanoseconds with aplomb, hinting at this powerful automatic underlying mechanism we all have.
Which makes a crucial point. If you're experiencing failure or unhappiness, it's not because you're inherently incapable. It's because your internal mechanism has likely been fed negative goals, or maybe just an unclear target. The brain, though endlessly complex, can offer rapid results if used with Psycho-Cybernetics. This impersonal nature means it doesn't judge the goal, it just executes.
Which brings us to self-image imprinting, how these negative goals often get programmed in the first place.
Exactly. And how does that happen?
Well, Dr. Maltz explains that the creative mechanism uses stored information, or memory. But critically, negative stored data can remain in control long after its truth or usefulness has evaporated.
Like outdated software running the show.
Precisely. He gives the powerful example of a child being told, "You are no good, you will never amount to anything," by a father after a failed math quiz at age 10. This can become a deep limbic memory or self-image imprinting.
And what's profoundly important here is that this imprinting is most controlled by three factors: authoritative source, intensity, and repetition.
The trifecta.
Yeah. What we hear from an authoritative source, like a parent, carries immense weight, especially in childhood. Intense experiences, such as a father yelling and causing humiliation, add even more weight. And repetitive authoritative input cements it further.
The implication is staggering, isn't it?
It really is. Years after this programming stops, it can still govern behavior because the servo mechanism acts upon it as if it were current truth, often making us act against our conscious desires.
But there's good news.
Please.
Dr. Maltz promises, if you can remember, worry, or tie your shoe, you can succeed with Psycho-Cybernetics, which is pretty reassuring.
Very reassuring. It suggests the tools are accessible.
Exactly. This assurance leads us directly to the practical application of these ideas, which really sets this book apart.
Right.
Unlike mere philosophical musings, Psycho-Cybernetics provides practical things to do, not just think about, that yield quantifiable results. It's designed to make whatever was once difficult easy.
And the examples he gives are so varied.
Totally. Losing weight, lowering a golf score, doubling income, becoming a confident public speaker, writing a novel. He presents it as the first and still foremost source for these transformative techniques.
It's quite remarkable how the original book gained such amazing longevity with little publicity or marketing, becoming a true classic.
Word of mouth, essentially.
Yeah, recommended by sales managers, coaches, consultants for decades. The updated edition even integrates Dr. Maltz's other works and includes specific mental training exercises.
And the editor adds his own experiences, too.
He does. Shares compelling personal examples, like putting his subconscious mind to work on writing assignments while sleeping or becoming a harness racing driver at 46. This suggests that the massive proliferation of self-help today, With psychologists, coaches, TV infomercials, it indicates a widespread, fundamental need for these types of solutions.
And Maltz's foundational work is really at the core of much of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, Chapter 2. This really dives into the scientific foundation behind Psycho-Cybernetics, drawing heavily from the concept of cybernetics itself.
Yeah, the science bit.
The book explains that our understanding of the mind has expanded exponentially, thanks to the computer industry, leading scientists to ask if the human brain operates similarly to electronic brains and goal-striving mechanisms in computers.
And it's quite fascinating because pioneering cybernetic scientists like Dr. Norbert Wiener and Dr. John von Neumann actually affirmed this connection.
They said yes.
They did. They concluded humans possess a servo mechanism more marvelous and wonderful than any electronic brain or guidance system.
More marvelous.
Wow. The word cybernetics itself means the steersman, which perfectly describes how these mechanisms automatically steer us to a goal. In Psycho-Cybernetics, the core teaching is how to communicate more effectively with your self-image to precisely control this powerful internal mechanism.
So it's like learning the language of your own control system.
Exactly. This connection helps demystify human performance by linking it to observable engineering principles, and it fundamentally suggests we're equipped with a profound success instinct.
And that success instinct is presented as incredibly powerful, more so than in animals, right?
Much more. Unlike animals, which are hardwired with preset goals like self-preservation or procreation, humans have a much more marvelous and much more complex success instinct. The book confidently states, our Creator did not shortchange us.
Good to know.
What truly sets us apart, making us more than creatures, is our creative imagination. This allows us to formulate a variety of goals and then direct their success mechanism by the use of imagination or imaging ability.
So imagination is the key differentiator.
It's central. This perspective is deeply empowering. The author quotes Napoleon, "Imagination rules the world," and Dugald Stewart, who called imagination the great spring of human activity.
And the principal source of human improvement. Yeah, powerful quotes.
It fundamentally suggests that we are not merely passive products of our environment or biology, but active creators of our experiences and our future. This creative power, in fact, is foundational, leading directly to a clear and actionable formula for success.
Okay, the formula. Let's break that down. It sounds important.
It is. The book calls it the formula for creative living and goal achievement. And it's surprisingly straightforward.
Okay.
You start with a 1 conscious mind decision. That decision, through 2 imagination, communicates the goal or target to your 3 self-image.
Right, so the imagination is the messenger.
Precisely. This then results in 4 work order instructions to your servo mechanism, your automatic system. And the book emphasizes that this process isn't just for poets, inventors, and the like, but is creative in everything we do.
So everyday creativity.
Yes. Even hard-headed practical men like Henry J. Kaiser attributed much of their extraordinary success to creative imagination.
The examples they give really bring this to life, don't they?
They do. Think about Howard Schultz creating Starbucks. He didn't just decide coffee shop.
No, he visualized the experience.
Exactly. Strolled Italian towns, vividly imagining the experience he wanted to recreate, down to the smallest detail. Or Walt Disney's phenomenal imagination to reality leadership, with his incredible attention to detail in attractions like the Blue Bayou restaurant.
That attention to detail born of imagination. That seems key.
It's crucial. It's not just about having an idea, but vividly picturing it down to the smallest detail that makes the difference. This powerful electronic brain within us operates based on constant feedback, much like a machine.
Okay, so feedback. Like how a thermostat works.
Sort of, but more dynamic. Dr. Norbert Wiener, that pioneer of goal-seeking mechanisms, believed a similar process occurs in the human nervous system for any purposeful activity, even something as simple as picking up a pencil.
Picking up a pencil. Seems basic.
Well, we consciously select the goal, trigger it with desire, and then our system continuously feeds information back. The automatic success mechanism then works by negative feedback. Meaning it identifies the degree to which the pencil is not picked up, and continually corrects the motion until the goal is achieved.
Ah, okay. Correcting the error signal.
Exactly. And what's so insightful is that while picking up a pencil might seem mundane, the book stresses that the exact same process is used for much more complex and seemingly challenging goals.
So we already have the hardware.
You don't need new capabilities. You already own and use it constantly. The system remembers its successes, forgets its failures, and repeats the successful action as a habit.
Which is why top performers look effortless.
Precisely. Their responses have become instinctive, automatic habits, and this automaticity extends beyond learned skills, hinting at deeper, less understood capabilities of the mind, maybe even access to something like a universal mind.
Okay, now we're getting into some really interesting territory.
Yeah, the book touches on it. It explains that even with all our tech advancements, nothing compares with your system of imagination, self-image, servo mechanism. Computers lack a programmer, imagination, goal-setting ability, emotions.
The human element.
Right. And beyond that, Dr. J.B. Ryan's parapsychology research suggested humans might access knowledge beyond individual memory telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, documented in labs. Kreskin even claimed everyone has these abilities, just undeveloped.
Whether you buy into that or not, the principle is interesting.
The core principle that emerges is powerful. When we genuinely seek an idea or an answer, we should assume that the answer exists already somewhere and set out to find it. Dr. Wiener himself noted that scientists are 50% of his way toward that answer if they simply believe an answer exists.
Belief as the starting point.
And the book gives the famous example of Louis Agassiz, who deciphered a fossil fish in a dream, illustrating how the creative mechanism can access stored information in a universal mind, bringing answers to consciousness often at unguarded moments, like when you're showering or drifting off to sleep.
Happens all the time. This leads to the profound idea that truth, when embraced, has a truly transformative power.
Yes, and that's the powerful conclusion of this chapter. It emphasizes that the truths within this book can set you free of an old, inadequate self-image. If you read it often, think intently about the implications, and hammer home its truths to yourself.
Hammer it home. Repetition.
Absolutely. The Royal Knights of Harlem story is a fantastic real-world illustration. Street toughs from a tough neighborhood became chess champions, pursued careers as doctors, lawyers, businesspersons.
Incredible transformation.
And this transformation happened because an ordinary teacher saw their potential and deliberately engineered an environment to fundamentally change their self-image.
Which is critical. It means you don't need to wait for someone else. Maltz stresses you can do it for yourself with Psycho-Cybernetics.
That self-agency is key.
The fundamental message he imparts is that every human being has been literally engineered for success by the Creator. Every human being has access to a power greater than him or herself.
Powerful stuff. Now, if imagination is such a potent ignition key for our success mechanism, what happens when we misuse it, when we turn it against ourselves?
Right, the destructive side. That's what we'll unpack next in Chapter 3.
So Chapter 3, if imagination ignites success, it can also fuel failure.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
The chapter warns that negative imagination can cause profound misery and self-sabotage.
It really can. The book gives that stark example of the man who imagined his slightly large nose and ears made him ugly, leading him to fear going out because he believed people were laughing at him.
Even though they probably weren't.
Exactly. In reality, his features were entirely normal. His imagination alone was responsible for his misery. It's chilling to see how this negative failure mechanism operates full blast, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of unhappiness.
So you basically imagine failure, and then your system makes it happen.
In a way, yes. The chapter emphasizes how crucial it is to gradually realize the incredible power of your own imagination and consciously apply creative rather than destructive imagination.
And the anorexia example is terrifying.
It's a truly powerful, almost terrifying demonstration of the hypnotic power of negative imagination. Ellen, 15 years old, 82 pounds, firmly convinced she was fat, self-harming to avoid eating. It's a stark reminder of imagination's incredible, almost scary power, whether for self-inflicted harm or amazing accomplishments.
Which leads to that core principle underpinning everything. You act and feel not according to what things are really like, but according to the image your mind holds of what they are like.
That's the bedrock. Because our mental images of ourselves, our world, others, our mind treats them as absolute truth, the reality.
Whether they are or not.
Right. Our nervous system, the book explains, reacts automatically and appropriately to these perceived realities, not to objective facts.
The grizzly bear example makes this clear.
It really drives the point home.
Yeah.
If you believe you're meeting a snarling grizzly bear, your emotional and nervous reactions are exactly the same as if you were meeting a real bear, even if it's just an actor in a costume.
Fight or flight kicks in based on belief.
Exactly. This is why it's not enough to say it's all in your head, because for your nervous system, it is real and it acts accordingly. This understanding provides the lever that psychology has always needed for changing personality. It's fundamentally about altering ingrained patterns of thought, not just wishing things were different.
So if our beliefs shape our reality, how do we change those deeply ingrained, often false ones, like the ones blocking achievement?
Well, the book explicitly challenges common illusions, like people raised with class warfare ideas or believing poverty as fact that can significantly block achievement. But, like the Royal Knights of Spanish Harlem, Maltz argues one can change from anything to anything by changing your self-image, by providing it with new truth.
Providing it with new truth. How?
And here's a truly profound insight. This new truth can come from actual experiential evidence and or vividly imagined synthetic evidence and or reinforcement from other authoritative influencers.
Synthetic evidence. So imagined evidence counts.
Critically, yes. The book states, your nervous system cannot tell the difference between an actual experience and one that is vividly imagined. This allows us to literally practice new traits and attitudes mentally, effectively building new neural pathways in our brains just as if we were physically practicing.
Wow. Mental practice is real practice to the brain.
That's the revolutionary idea. Yeah. This mental picturing isn't some abstract concept. It's a remarkably powerful and practical tool used by top performers everywhere.
Like Jack Nicklaus.
Exactly. Golf legend Jack Nicklaus famously said he never hit a golf shot without having a sharp picture of it in his head, visualizing the ball's trajectory, landing, and his swing before he even took the shot.
Seeing the success beforehand.
Yes. And this imagination practice applies to virtually anything, from confident public speaking to asking for sales orders. Dr. Maltz developed the theater of the mind technique.
The mental movie.
Right, where you literally play out successful scenarios as little mental movies. The book gives powerful examples like role-playing for salespeople, reportedly increasing sales by 400%.
And the concert pianist example.
Arthur Schnabel, world famous. Seldom practiced for any length of time at the actual piano keyboard, preferring to practice in his head, a technique now foundational to modern piano instruction. It highlights the incredible efficiency and power of mental rehearsal when effectively integrated with the self-image.
And this isn't just for athletes or artists, right? It's used in therapy, too.
Absolutely. The widespread acceptance extends even to clinical psychology. The book recounts the Just Imagine You're Sane experiment in 1958. Mental patients improved dramatically simply by answering personality tests as a typical, well-adjusted person on the outside would.
Just by acting as if.
Exactly. A striking 3/4 showed improved performance, some dramatic. What's truly compelling is how this demonstrated that simply imagining oneself in a role can cause one to begin acting like and feeling like a well-adjusted person.
That's incredible.
And today, every aspect of self-image psychology, the very idea of self-image as steersman, and related techniques like act-as-if visualization are widely accepted and used in assisting the mentally ill, the handicapped, addicts, and incarcerated inmates involved with rehabilitation. It's a testament to its effectiveness.
So the final word from Maltz on this is basically, just do it.
Pretty much. He says it doesn't matter what religious, spiritual, or philosophical background or viewpoint you come from. The key is simply to do it. A solid, honest 21-day trial is suggested, promising you'll be so gratified with the results you'll continue.
21 days to build a habit, they say.
Right. And the book stresses that for this to be effective, mental pictures should be as vivid and as detailed as possible, approximating actual experience by paying attention to small details, sights, sounds, objects in your imagined environment.
Make it real for the brain.
Precisely. This consistent practice builds new memories or stored data into your midbrain and central nervous system, leading to a new image of self and automatic, spontaneous new behaviors without trying, since these powerful mechanisms can be unconsciously learned.
They can also be consciously unlearned.
Exactly. Which brings us to the liberating idea of dehypnotizing ourselves from those false, limiting beliefs.
Okay, chapter 4. This hits hard right away. Maltz argues we are not figuratively, but literally and actually hypnotized by false beliefs about ourselves.
Literally hypnotized. It's a strong statement.
It is. He illustrates this with Alfred Adler's story. The kid told he couldn't do math, believed it until indignation broke the spell.
Right, that flash of, I can do this.
And the business person held back by beliefs about his appearance. Prescott Leckey's research confirmed this self-hypnosis, showing almost miraculous improvement in the grades of school children simply by showing them how to change their self-image.
So changing the image changed the grades.
Directly. Students were literally hypnotized by ideas like, I am dumb, or I am poor at arithmetic. Unconsciously, making poor grades became almost a moral issue for them. They felt compelled to be true to themselves, to their negative self-image.
Wow, a moral issue to fail. That's deep.
It highlights how deeply ingrained these self-limiting beliefs can be. And it's not just kids. It plays out powerfully in professional life, too.
Like that salesperson example.
Exactly. John D. Murphy's story of the salesperson who, almost like clockwork, always managed to make almost exactly $5,000 per year, regardless of the territory.
The 5K ceiling.
Yep. He'd work incredibly hard in poor territories to hit that number, but then find excuses to coast when $5,000 was in sight in good territories. He even got sick once the goal was reached, miraculously recovering next year.
That's a textbook example of a preset income limit, deeply ingrained in the self-image. Until that internal limit is consciously reset, the individual will manage to avoid going past it, no matter the external opportunity.
That invisible ceiling is real.
It underscores how these self-hypnotic beliefs create rigid limits. And the story of Mr. Russell, that shows how physical it can get and how fast.
Oh yeah, Mr. Russell's story is dramatic. He aged 20 years almost overnight due to a false idea, then regained his youth almost as quickly when he accepted the truth.
What was the false idea?
A cosmetic operation on his lip led his girlfriend to hysterically accuse him of spending his lifetime savings and curse him with voodoo. Later, he found a small bump, was told it was the African bug, and just rapidly declined, physically shaking hands, sunken eyes, lost 30 pounds.
All from a belief.
All from a belief.
Yeah.
Dr. Maltz found the bump was just scar tissue, removed it, showed him the truth. The book says he gave a sigh of relief, and it seemed as if there was an almost immediate change in his posture and expression.
Incredible. It powerfully illustrates how the body reacts to mental images as if they're physical reality, and how the basic ability to do these things was inherent in the subjects all the time. The hypnotist simply dehypnotized them from a false reality.
So the power's already there, just blocked.
Exactly. The ability to be happy and successful resides within us. It's about removing these self-imposed hypnotic blocks.
And a major block, for many, is the inferiority complex.
Definitely. Maltz asserts that inferiority complexes stem from judging ourselves not against our own norm or par, but against some other individual's norm. When we do this, we always, without exception, come out second best.
Always second best. Ouch!
And then we conclude we are not worthy or do not deserve success. This happens because we've allowed ourselves to be hypnotized by the entirely erroneous idea that I should be like so-and-so, or I should be like everybody else.
The comparison trap.
Exactly. The I want to be like Mike campaign, while great for selling shoes, is critiqued because it can set an impossible ideal for some, leading to guaranteed disappointment. A mature, intelligent observer, however, can be motivated by such figures without being adversely hypnotized. By looking at the characteristics and behavior other than innate, exceptional physical talent that truly contributed to their success. Focus on the process, not just the outcome or innate gifts.
That makes sense. So how do we actively dehypnotize? He gives exercises, right?
Yes, the chapter provides 2 specific mental training exercises to be practiced for at least 30 minutes daily to help with this dehypnotization and achieve relaxation.
Okay, what are they?
First, mental picture 1, concrete legs. You vividly imagine your legs, arms, and hands made of solid concrete, sinking heavily into the mattress. You visualize a friend trying and failing to lift them due to their immense, immovable weight.
Feeling heavy and grounded.
Exactly. The second, mental picture 2, marionette doll, asks you to imagine your body as a marionette doll with loose, limp strings for all joints, causing your body to be sprawled loosely across the bed, completely relaxed and unheld.
Total looseness.
Right. These exercises are meticulously designed to induce voluntary relaxation by using clear goal pictures held in imagination, letting the automatic mechanism realize those goals for you.
So you're telling the automatic system, relax through pictures.
Precisely. This proactive use of imagination bypasses conscious effort and targets the automatic mechanism directly. Now let's explore how the power of rational thinking can be another direct path to change in the next chapter.
All right. Chapter 5. This one presents a really radical, quite empowering idea right from the start.
Yeah. What's that?
It challenges the widely accepted fallacy that rational, logical, conscious thinking has no power over unconscious processes, and the common belief that to change negative beliefs, it is necessary to dig down and dredge up material from the unconscious.
So forget digging into the past.
That's what he suggests. Instead, the author asserts that deeply ingrained negative patterns can be changed effectively just by conscious rational thought.
That really counters the common image of therapy, doesn't it? The archaeological dig of distant childhood memory.
Totally. Dr. Maltz states unequivocally that this is not the only path. He tells the story of an executive who always disliked green beans. But with a simple, rational challenge to his belief, he discovered he actually enjoyed them in the present moment without needing to ferret through his childhood experiences to find the root cause.
Wow. So you don't need the origin story to change the current reality.
That's the radical idea.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to understand the root cause of a negative belief to effectively change its effect now. He even suggests it's perfectly okay to let sleeping dogs lie.
Letting sleeping dogs lie, that applies to mistakes too, right? This idea of forgetfulness.
Yes, exactly. This concept of forgetfulness is central to skill learning, particularly with mistakes. The book states that memories of past failures do no harm as long as our conscious thought and attention is focused on the positive goal to be accomplished.
Focus on the goal, not the past fumble.
Right.
Right.
While all skill learning involves trial and error, it's crucial to consciously forget the error once it's recognized and corrected, and instead remember and dwell upon the successful attempt.
Like Otto Graham, the quarterback.
Yeah, the legendary quarterback. He famously named a damn short memory as the most important characteristic of a great pass receiver, the ability to instantly forget a dropped pass and immediately focus on catching the next one.
That's huge in sports and life. This concept is central to solution-oriented therapy, right? Focusing on present solutions, not past problems.
Exactly. But how do we actively change these deeply ingrained thought patterns using reason?
Bertrand Russell comes in here.
Ah, the philosopher. What was his method?
Russell, despite a really unhappy childhood filled with self-criticism, learned to enjoy life profoundly by consciously diminishing preoccupation with myself and centering his attention on external objects.
Get out of your own head.
Pretty much. He developed a precise method. Whenever remorse arose for an act that reason deemed not wicked, he would examine the causes of your feeling of remorse and convince yourself in detail of their absurdity.
Reason it away.
Yeah. He urged conscious beliefs to be so vivid and emphatic that they make an impression upon your unconscious strong enough to overcome childhood programming. So, consciously programming the unconscious with reason.
Right. Russell advised a direct confrontation. Look into the irrationality closely with a determination not to respect it and not to let it dominate you. He said, pull them up by the roots, examine them, and reject them.
Like weeding the garden of your mind.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally a battle of ideas. Ideas are changed, not by will, but by other ideas.
Yeah.
Lecky's method, showing the inconsistency between a negative concept and a deeply held positive belief, is essentially the same principle.
Okay, but what motivates someone to actually do this kind of mental work? It sounds tough.
Often, the motivation comes from, pain.
Pain.
Yeah. The book states that pain and the deep-seated belief that you should not suffer great indignities are the triggers that most quickly or easily and definitively motivate people to action.
So discomfort can be a powerful catalyst.
Definitely. The example of Jeff Paul, a highly successful but horribly unhappy financial planner, is illuminating. He had a flash of rational thought that he need not continue making his living doing something he intensely disliked.
The aha moment driven by misery.
Right. He made a conscious decision to start a mail-order business, focusing on his strengths and evolving interests. And while his early attempts were markedly unsuccessful, he meticulously course-corrected and ultimately achieved extraordinary success.
That's a great story. It shows rational realization plus the desire to escape pain can really fuel change and persistence.
Exactly. So, when you're confronted with these persistent negative beliefs, Dr. Maltz provides a set of powerful questions to help dismantle them.
Okay, the practical toolkit, what are the questions?
First, if you believe I can't, you ask, is this belief based on an actual fact or on an assumption or a false conclusion? Then, 4 crucial questions follow, and you really have to wrestle with them.
All right.
1, is there any rational reason for such a belief? 2, could it be that I am mistaken in this belief? 3, would I come to the same conclusion about some other person in a similar situation? 4, why should I continue to act and feel as if this were true if there is no good reason to believe it?
Those are pointed questions, not just casual reflection.
No, they're not meant to be passed by casually, but to be wrestled with, even provoking indignation or even anger if you realize you've cheated yourself out of your potential. Alfred Adler got mad, remember?
Right, the anger fueled the change.
And rational thought, applied this way, can actually generate good emotions. by vividly picturing and dwelling on a desirable end result, making that future seem more real and achievable.
But this rational power, it can be misused too, right? Creating mental hazards.
Exactly. The book warns that the automatic mechanism can function as a failure mechanism if fed negative data and goals, often unconsciously. It lists 4 common mental hazards for golfers that apply broadly. 1, over-perfectionism.
To be perfect.
2, trying too hard.
Putting in too much conscious effort.
3, overreacting to individual incidents.
Letting one mistake derail you.
And 4, worrying what others think. Each of these, Maltz warns, can jam the servo mechanism.
Jam the system. The breakdown of overreaction is insightful, how it convinces the self-image of no self-control, and that golf story about the duffer who couldn't accept it was just a game.
Perfect illustration of disproportionate response. The key takeaway is that rational thought expressed as willpower is a losing proposition.
So it's not about gritting your teeth harder.
No, it's about using rational thought creatively to develop entirely new mental pictures that guide your automatic mechanism. This means being vigilant about external suggestions and making conscious choices about the goals you feed your inner system.
So that motto, it ain't necessarily so.
A remarkably good motto for life. Rational thought's primary job, according to Maltz, is to examine and analyze incoming messages, to accept those that are true and reject those that are untrue. He notes many people just blindly swallow negative suggestions.
Like you don't look so well today.
Or automatically believing being snubbed means I am an inferior person. It's a stark warning. Too many people live believing that their circumstances cannot be improved, making them incredibly vulnerable to these mental hazards.
So the final key from this chapter, decide what you want.
Exactly. Decide what you want, not what you don't want. Conscious rational thought must select clear, positive goals and concentrate on them. And this concentration, paradoxically, is actually enhanced by relaxation.
Which is what we explore next, right? How to relax and let the system work.
Moving on to Chapter 6. This introduces the profound idea that maybe, just maybe, depending too much on conscious thought and willpower, leads to being too careful, too anxious, and too fearful of results.
Trying too hard, basically.
Yeah. He quotes William James's The Gospel of Relaxation from way back in 1899. He advised, when once a decision is reached and execution is the order of the day, dismiss absolutely all responsibility and care about the outcome.
Let go of the outcome. That's hard.
Definitely. He says, unclamp, in a word, your intellectual and practical machinery and let it run free, and the circlet it will do you will be twice as good.
Unclamp the machinery. I like that visual. This is really evident in creative work, isn't it? Ideas just pop up.
Exactly. Ideas often come automatically, spontaneously, and somewhat like a bolt out of the blue, precisely when the conscious mind has let go of the problem.
But it's not just passive waiting, right? You have to do the groundwork first.
A crucial point. This unconscious cerebration doesn't happen without preliminary conscious thought. You must first be intensely interested in solving a particular problem, diligently gather information, wrestle with it, and then consciously release it, trusting your automatic mechanism to work.
Feed the machine, then let it run.
And this principle, the book argues, isn't just for authors and artists. It applies to everyone.
Which is where many of us make a mistake, assuming it's only for the creatives.
Right. We assume unconscious cerebration is only for authors, artists, inventors. But the book insists we are all creative workers, whether we're cooks, teachers, salespeople, entrepreneurs.
We all have problems to solve.
Exactly. We all possess the same fundamental success mechanism, which can work for personal problems, business challenges, selling, whatever. Bertrand Russell used this method for mundane personal problems.
And Napoleon Hill, the book title story.
Yeah. Author of Think and Grow Rich, struggled for months with the title, then awoke from a nap with the title, just popped into his head. The editor of this book, Dan Kennedy, uses Psycho-Cybernetics to pour out writing work that was apparently done for him as he sleeps.
Dr. J.B. Ryan even suggested genius might just be this natural problem-solving process of the mind working correctly.
Which brings us to avoiding that playing not to lose mentality, that cautious, fearful approach.
Right. The book states, in sports, it said, you can't win by playing not to lose. That mentality creates and magnifies stress. So the chapter offers 5 powerful prescriptions for freeing your creative machinery.
Okay, 5 prescriptions. What's number 1?
Prescription 1. Focus on supporting decisions, not second-guessing. Remember the gambler analogy. Do your worrying before you place your bet, not after the wheel starts turning. Once a decision is made, Dismiss absolutely all responsibility and care about the outcome.
Let it go. The author used this for dentist visits, speeches.
Yeah, he realized if a decision is made to go through with something physically, resisting it mentally is just wasted energy. Prescription 2. Learn to do one thing at a time.
Unitasking, not multitasking.
Exactly. The habit of trying to do too many things at once is a major cause of anxiety and inefficiency. We can only do one thing at a time. Dr. James Gordon Gilkey's lesson of the hourglass preached that even on the busiest day, hours come one moment at a time and problems in single file.
Like sand through an hourglass. Prescription 3.
Delegate and let go. Micromanaging inhibits growth, personal and professional. Successful executives learn to delegate effectively, trust their teams, clearly express intentions, then rely on associates to execute.
Trust is key there. Number 4.
Prescription 4. Tap into the shoemaker and the elves principle. Many creative workers, like Edison and Beecher, go over in their mind those things which they hope to accomplish the next day before retiring, essentially assigning homework to their subconscious.
Letting the elves work while you sleep. And number 5.
Prescription 5. Practice remembering feelings of relaxation. Consciously recalling relaxed sensations in your arms, legs, back, neck, face, and mentally repeating affirmations like, I feel more and more relaxed.
Actively recalling relaxation.
Yes. This practice helps reduce fatigue and handle situations better. By actively relaxing, you remove excessive states of concern, tension, and anxiety, allowing your creative mechanism to operate far more efficiently. Over time, this deliberate relaxation becomes a natural habit.
So these 5 prescriptions give us actionable steps to align conscious effort with the automatic success mechanism.
Precisely. And this calm, relaxed state, it turns out, is crucial not just for productivity, but for achieving what many people desire most: genuine happiness.
Chapter 7. This tackles the big one, happiness. But it offers a remarkably practical, almost medical definition from Dr. John A. Schindler.
Not just vague feelings.
No. He defines happiness as a state of mind in which our thinking is pleasant a good share of the time. Simple, right?
Very simple, but profound. It provides a tangible target, shifting happiness from some elusive emotion to a trainable mental habit.
Something you can actually cultivate. But many people struggle with the idea that pursuing happiness is selfish.
Yeah, that's a common block. The book confronts this directly, arguing compellingly that unselfishness does make for happiness, precisely because it directs our minds outward, away from self-introspection and dwelling on our own perceived faults.
So focusing on others helps you.
It allows us to express ourselves creatively and fulfill ourselves in helping others. The very thought of being needed and competent enough to help is presented as one of the most pleasant thoughts a person can have.
Interesting twist.
Maltz points out the absurdity of thinking being miserable will somehow make you happier later, like a reward. Happiness is a natural accompaniment to unselfish action, not a payoff you earn through suffering.
And another big cause of unhappiness, he points out, is living on the deferred payment plan.
Ah, yes. Always waiting for happiness when.
Exactly. Pascal observed, we are never living, but only hoping to live, and looking forward always to being happy. It is inevitable that we never are so. Many people fall into this trap, waiting for the marriage, the better job, the paid-off house.
To finally allow themselves to be happy, which Maltz says invariably leads to disappointment.
Because happiness isn't out there, it's in here.
That's the critical point. Happiness is a mental habit, a mental attitude, and if it is not learned and practiced in the present, it is never experienced. It cannot be made contingent on solving some external problem.
Because life is problems.
Life is a continuous series of problems, so if you are to be happy at all, you must be happy, period. Not happy because of external circumstances. This brings us to that fundamental distinction underpinning happiness: facts versus opinions.
The Epictetus principle. This is powerful.
Extremely. When a woman with an alcoholic husband asked Dr. Maltz how she could possibly be happy, he suggested she could be happier by resolving not to add resentment and self-pity to your misfortune. Don't add insult to injury, essentially.
And the businessman who lost $200,000.
Dr. Maltz told him, it is a fact that you lost $200,000. It is your opinion that you are ruined and disgraced. He advised him to memorize Epictetus's wisdom. Men are disturbed not by the things that happen, but by their opinion of the things that happen.
Separate the event from your interpretation of it.
Precisely. The author recounts his own life setbacks, being told he couldn't be a doctor, couldn't study in Germany, girlfriend marrying someone else, and how he constantly reminded himself these were opinions, not facts. That allowed him to move forward.
That's the essence of Psycho-Cybernetics, isn't it?
The essence of psycho-cybernetics is the accurate, calm, and ultimately automatic separation of fact from fiction, fact from opinion, actual circumstance from magnified obstacle, so that our actions and reactions are solidly based on truth, not our own or others' opinions.
This ability allows us to maintain a goal-oriented attitude, even when things go wrong.
Because, the book states, humans function naturally and normally when oriented toward a positive goal. Happiness, then, is simply a symptom of normal natural functioning, a byproduct of moving toward a goal.
Like Thomas Edison after the fire.
Exactly. Losing his lab millions, no insurance. In a devastating fire, he famously said, "We will start rebuilding tomorrow morning." He maintained an aggressive attitude, remaining powerfully goal-oriented despite profound misfortune. The young business executive who lost $200,000 regained happiness by setting another goal and working towards it.
So the unhappiness wasn't the loss, but losing the goal.
The real cause was losing the goal and yielding passively. This principle is so powerful it can even lead to what Maltz calls surgery on your thoughts.
Surgery on thoughts. Like Mr. Benjamin the salesman.
Exactly. He believed his slightly large nose was repulsive. Prospects laughed at him, leading to rude behavior, no sales. Dr. Maltz suggested surgery on his own thinking for 21 days. Consciously cut out all negative thoughts about his nose and focus exclusively on pleasant ones.
Did it work?
Dramatically. Despite skepticism, prospects became friendlier, sales soared, his boss congratulated him. He enthusiastically postponed his physical surgery.
That's amazing. And Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris did similar things.
Yeah, visualized burning negative thoughts or literally wrote them down and burned them. These are pragmatic, results-oriented individuals who found simple, practical things to do to take control of their thoughts and reshape their reality.
It shows the power of consciously altering thought habits, a skill anyone can acquire.
Absolutely. If happiness is ultimately the product of our collection of habits of thought, then the skill of altering a particular habit is extremely useful. Dr. Elwood Worcester, the skeptical scientist, tested this.
What did he do?
For a month, he resolved to dwell only on happy past incidents, desirable present elements, and future ambitions within his grasp. He reported a profound transformation from unhappy, ineffective, to happy and fulfilled.
Just by changing his focus for a month.
Maltz often gave these psycho-cybernetics prescriptions as a psychologic experiment to try for just 30 days before cosmetic surgery, often with remarkable, initially reluctant success.
Because the self-image and habits go together.
Exactly. Our self-image and our habits tend to go together. Change one and you automatically change the other. Habits are like garments worn by our personalities, always consistent with our self-image. When new, positive habits are developed, the self-image outgrows the old habits and grows into the new pattern.
So you grow into the new habits.
Precisely. This process leads us naturally to the building blocks of a success-type personality, which we'll dissect in the next chapter.
Okay, chapter 8. Now we're getting into the specific ingredients of a success-type personality.
Yeah.
How does Maltz define a good personality?
He defines it pretty simply. A good personality enables effective dealing with reality and efficient goal satisfaction. To make this actionable, the chapter provides a practical prescription using the letters of the word success to outline these essential ingredients.
Oh, an acronym. Success makes it memorable.
Exactly. It breaks down success into these acquirable traits, making it less daunting and far more actionable. It gives you a clear framework.
So let's unpack it.
First S is for sense of direction. The book states, simply, that confused and unhappy people straighten themselves out when they were given a goal to shoot for and a straight course to follow.
Having a target.
Absolutely critical for your self-image because unless you have a goal and strive to achieve it, you cannot conceive of yourself as a goal striver. Without a clear target, your automatic mechanism has nothing precise to steer toward.
Makes sense. Okay, U.
U is for understanding. The book emphasizes that to deal effectively with environment, we must be willing to acknowledge the truth about it. This involves seeing and accepting truth, good or bad, not what we wish it to be.
Like Bertrand Russell's point about Hitler.
Exactly. Russell argued Hitler lost WWII because he didn't fully understand the situation. He punished bearers of bad news, so no one dared tell him the truth. Reality distortion field.
It highlights the danger of confirmation bias and self-deception. Our fears and anxieties often color incoming sensory data, distorting our perception.
So understanding the truth allows us to act, which requires the first C.
First C is for courage. Maltz asserts, often the difference between a successful person and a failure is not one's bitter abilities nor ideas, but the courage that one has to bet on ideas, to take a calculated risk and to act.
Action over analysis paralysis.
Right. Standing still failure to act causes people to become nervous, to feel stymied or trapped, and it could bring on a host of physical symptoms. Success often comes from decisiveness and course correction, not long delays and procrastination.
And it's not just big acts of courage.
No. General R.E. Chambers encouraged practicing courage in little things daily to develop the ability for more important matters. He said you never know you've got them until you act. It's a muscle you strengthen.
Courage is vital. What's the second C?
Second C is for charity. This prescription is threefold. First, develop genuine appreciation for people as children of God, unique personalities, creative beings. Second, deliberately stop and think of others' feelings, viewpoints, desires, and needs.
Put yourself in their shoes.
And third, act as if other people are important and treat them accordingly. The friend's joke to his wife, yes, whenever I stop and think about it, highlights that we cannot feel anything genuine about others unless we actively think about them.
So it connects outward behavior to inner appreciation, fosters real connection.
And part of this charity, this compassion, also involves managing the critic within. So E.
E is for self-esteem. Dr. Mary Elaine Jacobson describes the false self as a powerful adversary whose sharp-tongued admonitions constantly keep us from our true selves. She notes, almost magically, that when there is no enemy within, there are far fewer without.
Taming the inner critic reduces outer conflict.
The critic within is pinpointed as the thief of happiness, self-acceptance, self-esteem, and peace of mind. But here's the crucial point about self-esteem.
What's the secret?
The biggest secret of self-esteem is this: begin to appreciate other people more. It argues that real self-esteem is not derived from the great things you've done, but from an appreciation of yourself for what you are, a child of God. This profound realization naturally extends to appreciating others.
Appreciating yourself leads to appreciating others. That's foundational to the first S.
First S is for self-acceptance. Maltz emphasizes no real success or genuine happiness is possible until a person gains some degree of self-acceptance. This means giving up the shams and pretenses and being willing to be yourself, not some idealized version.
Authenticity.
Right. The book says, success, which comes from self-expression, often eludes you when you strive and strain to be somebody, and often comes when you become willing to relax and be yourself. Creating a better self-image doesn't create new abilities. It releases and utilizes them.
Unlocks what's already there.
Exactly. You are not your mistakes. Many people reject themselves by comparing to artificial standards, like fashion trends or wealth benchmarks. Self-acceptance means acknowledging you are a unique, one-of-a-kind composite of strengths, weaknesses, knowledge and ignorance, experience and naivete.
Embrace the whole package.
Yes. Peeling back the layers of those you envy often reveals their own flaws. This inner strength then naturally translates into the second S.
Second S is for self-reliance.
Here the book introduces Dr. Paul Stoltz's adversity quotient, AQ, measuring how people perceive and deal with challenges critical as the world gets more difficult to operate in.
High AQ characteristics.
3 core traits. 1, no blame for others for adversities. 2, no self-blame. Setbacks don't reflect poorly on them personally. And 3, problems are seen as limited in size, duration, and can be dealt with.
Resilience, basically.
It's in total harmony with Maltz's ideas on the success personality. Elizabeth Taylor and Christopher Reeve are given as high AQ examples, fighting resiliently despite severe diseases and setbacks, continuing meaningful activities.
Powerful examples. And the chapter ends with that fable.
Yes, the fable of unburdening beautifully illustrates the journey to self-reliance.
Remind us.
A weary traveler carries needless burdens. A boulder, bricks, a pumpkin, weeds. Bystanders make him aware of each, and he sheds them one by one, finding freedom. His problem wasn't the burdens, but his lack of awareness of them.
Becoming aware lets you drop the weight.
Exactly. The book even provides a mental training exercise. List your own bricks and rocks, emotional burdens, write them on actual bricks, and physically leave them in your car each day as a symbolic act of unburdening.
Very practical. So now we have the vision of the success personality. But how do we avoid accidentally activating its opposite, the failure mechanism?
That's the crucial focus of Chapter 9.
Okay, Chapter 9. This is crucial. How not to activate the automatic failure mechanism. Maltz says no one deliberately cultivates negative traits.
Right. They're usually adopted as a way to solve a difficulty or a problem, but based on a mistaken premise. They seem like solutions, but backfire.
And he gives us another acronym for these negative feedback signals. Failure.
Failure. Easy to remember, unfortunately. It stands for frustration, aggressiveness, misdirected, insecurity, loneliness, lack of oneness, uncertainty, resentment, and emptiness.
Quite the list. And the solution isn't willpower.
No, the solution is understanding. Being able to see clearly that these patterns simply do not work and are ultimately inappropriate or self-defeating. The martyr complex, or victim complex, is a prime example. Behavior determined to make oneself and others miserable, mistakenly adopted for some perceived, twisted benefit.
So let's break down failure.
F is for frustration, defined as excessive emotional feelings of deep dissatisfaction and futility when a goal is thwarted. Chronic frustration, Maltz explains, usually means either your goals are unrealistic or that the image is inadequate, or both.
Like Jim S., the VP.
Exactly. Successful guy, good golf score, beautiful family, but felt chronically frustrated because his achievements didn't measure up to his unrealistic goals, being chairman, shooting pro-level golf, having a perfect family.
Highlights the danger of perfectionism and misaligned self-image. Understanding this helps set realistic goals.
And unchecked frustration often leads directly to A.
A for aggressiveness.
Yeah.
Misdirected.
Aggressiveness and emotional steam are vital for reaching goals. But trouble ensues when we are blocked or frustrated. That emotional steam gets dammed up, seeking an outlet.
Like the worker wanting to punch the boss.
Right, but snaps at his family or kicks the cat instead. Or, like a scorpion stinging itself, turns aggression inward. Elmer Fudd wildly blasting in all directions after missing the rabbit is another classic example.
Hitting the wrong target.
Misdirected aggression tries to hit the original goal by lashing out at any target, which doesn't work and creates more problems. Maltz stresses knowledge gives you power. Merely understanding this helps. The goal is to turn aggression around on the frustration that birthed it for productive action.
And this often stems from I.
I for insecurity. The insecure person feels he should be good, period, or successful, period, without understanding these are goals to be achieved, not absolute states.
They expect instant perfection.
Right. The Peter Principle says people rise to their level of incompetence. But Maltz counters. What about those who rise to the occasion far beyond his level of experience, knowledge, preparation, or confidence? He contrasts two college coaches promoted to the NFL.
Now, one failed, one succeeded. Why?
Their reaction. One acted like a newly crowned king, hiding insecurity, creating conflict. The other saw it as a learning opportunity. Insecurity jams the servo mechanism by triggering frustration and misdirected aggression.
Creating a downward spiral. And a deeper form is L.
L for loneliness, lack of oneness. Loneliness and isolation are forces that destroy kings and presidents as well as mere mortals.
So what's the antidote?
Maltz stresses it's crucial to consciously force yourself to mix and mingle with other people, develop social skills, actively contribute. Constant exposure to the object of fear immunizes against the fear.
Face the fear of connection.
Exactly. He contrasts Nixon's isolating bunker mentality during Watergate with Lee Iacocca at Chrysler, who deliberately went public, leading a turnaround. Dolly's painting of the ship sailing toward light, not staying in the dark, safe harbor.
Illustrates the need to move out of isolation.
Yes. While you cannot stub your toe standing still in the dark, you cannot escape a burning building, or otherwise achieve anything by standing safe and still in the dark either. We must move out of isolation toward involvement.
And that movement demands we deal with you.
U for uncertainty. Both impulsive action and complete inaction often stem from uncertainty. Maltz wisely states, nobody is right all the time. It is in the nature of things that we progress by acting, making mistakes, and correcting course.
Like the guided torpedo.
Exactly. It reaches its target by making a series of mistakes and continually correcting its course. You cannot change or correct nothing. You need to be moving.
Even successful people make mistakes.
Constantly. Costner, Hanks have epic mistakes on their resume. Success in football, investment, oil drilling, advertising often involves being wrong more than right. The entrepreneur with 18 successes and 100 failures, his secret. I fail forward faster.
Fail forward faster. Love that.
Mail order legends Ted Nicholas and Joseph Sugarman had 8 or more flops for every profitable ad. Sherlock Holmes's process of elimination helps by focusing on the one conclusion that cannot be eliminated, engaging the ASM.
Accepting imperfection helps avoid the next trap.
R for resentment, a self-defeating way of making us feel important as the victim of injustice. It's an attempt to wipe out or eradicate a real or fancied wrong. that has already happened.
Trying to change the past.
It's an emotional rehashing or refighting of some event in the past, and you cannot win because you are attempting to do the impossible change, the past. Resentment creates an inferior self-image, leading you to habitually see evidence of injustice everywhere.
Like the prisoners who keep offending.
High recidivism is linked to habitual resentment, where released prisoners fail to stay straight because their self-image is stuck in a victim mentality. And finally, the feeling that negates all achievement, E.
E for emptiness.
Many achieve outward symbols of success, but find the treasure chest empty. They've lost the capacity to enjoy. This emptiness is a symptom of an inadequate self-image.
Feeling unworthy of success.
Those with an unworthy and undeserving self-image may achieve success, but be unable to accept it psychologically and enjoy it, even feeling guilty about it. They might overcompensate due to an inferiority complex, but still feel inferior, undeserving, almost as if they were thieves.
So how do we use these negative feelings constructively?
Use them as feedback, not a destination. Negative feelings are automatic controls that can help steer clear of failure. 3 steps. 1. Sensitivity to the negative alerts you. 2. Recognize the negative as undesirable. 3. Take immediate corrective action and substitute an opposite positive factor from the success mechanism.
Turn the ship around immediately.
This practice will in time create a sort of automatic reflex guiding you to success. These insights on the failure mechanism lead naturally into discussing those emotional scars we mentioned earlier. How do we actually heal them?
Right. Chapter 10. Removing emotional scars and giving yourself an emotional facelift. Maltz draws that direct connection again between physical scars and these hidden scars on the inner image or self-image.
Just like the body creates physical scar tissue for protection after injury, Maltz explains we form equally protective, yet ultimately limiting, emotional or spiritual scars to guard against future hurt.
The story of George T., the attorney.
Poignant. His horrible scar from an accident gave him an evil look in his own mind, leading to a devastating loss of confidence, seeing himself as repulsive.
And the problem is, these scars protect too much.
Exactly. They protect us not only from the original source of hurt, but also all other human beings, building an impenetrable emotional wall. This tragically leads to persistent self-sabotaging behavior.
Like the cat avoiding the whole kitchen after landing on one hot stove burner.
Perfect analogy. Emotional scar tissue built up on the self-image affects people like scorched paws affect that cat. The affected individual avoids not just the precise situation, but the general area of experience that even remotely resembles it.
Like the executive who was silent in meetings.
Classic example. A very capable executive, a church mouse in meetings, avoided participation due to past chastening from his mentor. Brilliant ideas delivered privately, missed credit, viewed as deadwood.
Fear of repeat injury holding him back.
Exactly. But Dr. Jean Lundrum's observation is key here. Self-image is not set in plaster, it is set in putty.
Set in putty, meaning it's changeable.
Always changeable. Reinforced by Maltz's own experience as a sculptor. It means no one is ever too old, too jaded, too frightened, or too traumatized to wet the clay and begin remaking it. You can reshape your self-image.
That's incredibly helpful. But these scars can trigger automatic reactions, right? Survival mode.
Yes. Built-up emotional scars trigger immediate survival mode behavior, flee or fight, fear or pugnacious aggressiveness. Whenever confronted with a situation sensed to cause similar past harm, even if the current situation is benign.
The servo mechanism overreacts.
It may not accurately assess the relativity of dangers. Social embarrassment at a dinner party can tragically trigger the same intense anxiety and inhibition as being confronted by a mugger.
So how do you perform this emotional surgery? Do you have to dig up the past?
Here's the profound takeaway. You do not necessarily have to painstakingly revisit every incident or influence all the way to early childhood. Maltz asserts you can effectively begin with fresh programming, using Psycho-Cybernetics techniques recalling successes, mental movies.
So new programming overwrites the old.
The key is that acceptance of the new by the self-image will automatically remove the old scars. This is the essence of solution-oriented therapy. He notes how juvenile delinquents, despite their hard exterior, often have a soft, vulnerable inner person, but they dare not leave themselves open to be hurt again, so they attack first. Symptomatic of severe emotional scarring.
Yes. Just as we strengthen our physical immune system, we can strengthen our emotional immune system. Maltz offers 3 prescriptions. First, be too big to feel threatened.
He observes people offended the easiest have the lowest self-esteem. Wholesome self-esteem means little slights offer no threat at all. The cure for self-centeredness, paradoxically, is developing a healthy, strong ego by building up self-esteem.
Interesting. Second prescription.
Be self-reliant. The passive dependent person turns their destiny over to others, circumstances, luck, makes unreasonable demands, and feels cheated, wronged, hurt when unfulfilled. The self-reliant person, in contrast, feels a need to give love.
Taking responsibility for your own state, like that speaker who didn't care if the audience liked him.
Yeah, the successful but least beloved speaker, proud, he made him mad, his self-image immune to the lack of love in the room. Third prescription.
Avoid emotional tension.
Maltz warns, when you are suffering tensions brought about by frustration, fear, anger, or depression, you become thin-skinned and sensitive, easily offended and hurt, leading to new emotional scars.
So manage your state to build resilience.
Crucially, you alone are responsible for your responses and reactions. You do not have to respond at all. He suggests a written success diary as a simple tool, and visualizations like Superman deflecting criticism can help in real life.
Okay, but what about those really deep old wounds? How do you cut those out?
Old emotional scars must be cut out, given up entirely, eradicated through deliberate surgery. You must become your own plastic surgeon and give yourself a spiritual facelift.
No salve or balm works.
No. Forgiveness must be absolute and complete, not a means of asserting moral superiority, like the wife who forgave her husband but cannot forget.
Holding on to it negates the forgiveness.
Exactly. Your forgiveness should be forgotten, as well as the wrong which was forgiven. If remembered, you are very apt to feel that the other person owes you something for forgiving him, which negates the healing. And this applies equally to forgiving yourself.
Self-forgiveness, that's huge for many people.
Absolutely. We beat ourselves over the head with self-condemnation, remorse, and regret. Excessive guilt is simply an attempt to make right in the past something we did wrong. An impossible task.
Can't change the past.
Emotions are appropriate for reality in the present environment. Since we cannot live in the past, we cannot appropriately react emotionally to the past. The past can be simply written off, closed, forgotten.
Separate the mistake from your identity.
It's helpful to think of mistakes in terms of what we did or did not do, rather than in terms of what the mistakes made us. You may have made a mistake, but this does not mean that you are a mistake.
Powerful distinction. This liberation from past burdens is key to unlocking our real personality, right? Which is chapter 11.
Exactly. Chapter 11 opens with that wonderfully liberating idea. Personality is not so much acquired from without as released from within.
Released from within, not built from outside.
It's the outward evidence of that unique and individual creative self made in the image of God. This real self is described as inherently attractive, magnetic, capable of a powerful impact, while conversely, a phony is universally disliked.
Like babies.
Perfect example. Babies are loved, Maltz points out, not for what they do or know, but simply because of what they are. They are emotionally honest, uninhibited, and perfectly exemplify. Be yourself.
So it shifts focus from performance to authentic self-expression.
Yeah.
But external criticism stifles that, right? Which brings us back to negative feedback.
Yes, the proper use of negative feedback. Negative feedback in a servo mechanism is equivalent to criticism. Its purpose is to modify response and change the course of forward action, not to stop it altogether.
Like the missile correcting course, not stopping.
Precisely. But if the mechanism is too sensitive, it overcorrects, causing exaggerated lateral zigzags or stop all forward progress altogether.
We make the mistake of thinking self-expression itself is wrong if one expression was flawed.
Exactly. Many make the foolish conclusion that if our expression is sometimes wrong or imperfect, then self-expression itself is wrong. Stuttering is used as a powerful illustration.
How does stuttering illustrate this?
It demonstrates how excessive negative feedback brings on inhibition and interferes with appropriate response. Normal speech relies on constant subconscious negative feedback for subtle correction. But if we become consciously overcritical or too careful in trying to avoid errors in advance, that very over-carefulness results in stuttering.
Trying too hard causes the problem.
Yes. Videotape is noted as a valuable feedback tool, but with a crucial warning. Care must be taken not to overly emphasize a flaw to such a degree that it becomes mistakenly received by the servo mechanism as the target.
Don't focus on the pink elephant.
Right. Focusing on what you don't want can ironically make it happen. The solution is creating environments that foster natural self-expression.
Like Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie.
Exactly. Places like Dale Carnegie programs, Toastmasters International, even comedy workshops provide gentle course correction feedback in a safe, encouraging opportunity.
Safe places to practice being yourself.
Individuals test and challenge limiting beliefs, let their suppressed personality come out little by little, discover their true self, and show proof of greater abilities to their self-image.
What makes those environments work?
People are cajoled rather than forced into self-expression, applauded and congratulated for small steps, and crucially, there are never a band of jackals leaping at persons when they err. This allows them to risk improvement rather than choose isolation.
Risk improvement. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, this freedom from overcarefulness helps with purpose tremor, too.
Yes, purpose tremor occurs when normal people try too hard or are too careful not to make an error. In extreme cases, brain injury, it's uncontrolled shaking when trying to act.
Shows the physical effect of inhibition.
Excessive carefulness or being too anxious not to make an error is a form of excessive negative feedback. It leads to inhibition and performance deterioration. People are helped by relaxation, learning not to be overly careful.
And a major source of this inhibition is worrying about others' opinions. Self-consciousness is others' consciousness.
Exactly. In social situations, we receive constant negative feedback data, smiles, frowns, subtle clues. This is vital, but when you become too consciously concerned about what others think, you get excessive negative feedback, inhibition, and poor performance.
Like James Mangan, the salesman.
Famous example, cured his painful self-consciousness in ritzy hotels by imagining he was going to eat with Ma and Pa, acting unconcerned about judgment. He eventually sought to develop more self-consciousness, focusing on acting as he did when alone, without any regard to how some other person might feel.
Did that make him arrogant?
Surprisingly, no. This total disregard did not result in his becoming callous, arrogant, or entirely insensitive. It simply toned down his overly sensitive feedback mechanism, allowing his true self to emerge.
Leading to the realization that your opinion matters most.
The most liberating of all thoughts is disregard or disconcern for what other people think. J. Peterman noted, once you realize that most people are keeping up appearances and putting on a show, their approval becomes less important.
The Fraser's example.
Perfect. Dr. Fraser overanalyzing a note, only to find the sender forgot it moments later. You tend to believe other people think about you far more than they ever actually do.
And Jennifer Capriati's comeback.
Traced her renaissance to concluding it didn't matter what people believed about her and learning to stop believing bad things about herself. Dr. Nathaniel Branden defined self-esteem as the reputation we acquire with ourselves.
Your reputation with yourself, that's key.
Einstein was considered dumb at math, but it didn't matter. An ex-convict trying to go straight is ultimately defined by his own opinion of himself. You can liberate your self-image from any prison of your own making.
And this self-opinion interacts with our conscience.
Yes. Conscience itself is a learned negative feedback mechanism having to do with morals and ethics. If correctly learned and not overly sensitive, it steers us to the goal of correct, appropriate, and realistic behavior.
That it can't go wrong.
Definitely. Conscience's job is to make you happy, not miserable. But if based on distorted and unrealistic ideas like, it is right for her to be a nobody, it does indeed make cowards of us all.
Like stage fright.
Stage fright is a common phenomenon, understood as excessive negative feedback coming from a declinated conscience, a fear of being punished for speaking up, expressing, showing off. This illustrates how universal is the suppression and inhibition of self-expression.
So how do we overcome these inhibitions? More exercises.
Yes, powerful mental training exercises. If you're shy, dread new situations, worry, feel self-conscious, exercise 1. Speak spontaneously. Don't wonder in advance what you're going to say. Just open your mouth and say it. Improvise as you go along.
Just start talking. Exercise 2.
Act and correct as you go. Don't plan. Don't think before you act. Act and correct your actions as you go along. Like a torpedo. Act first, start moving toward the goal, then correct any errors.
Action precedes perfection. Exercise 3.
Stop second-guessing yourself. While occasional self-analysis is useful, continual second-guessing yourself is defeating. Pull yourself up short and stop it.
We cut off the negative loop. Exercise 4.
Speak louder than usual. Inhibited people are notoriously soft-spoken. Raising voice volume is a powerful disinhibitor, allowing you to exert more strength and presence.
Simple but powerful. These shift you from criticism to action.
Exactly. They replace ingrained inhibitions with new, liberating habits of expression. These practical techniques lead us to a discussion of do-it-yourself tranquilizers for peace of mind.
Chapter 12. Do-it-yourself tranquilizers. Intriguing title. Maltz contrasts these with actual tranquilizer drugs.
Yeah, he notes that drugs create a psychic screen, reducing our response to disturbing stimuli. They don't change the environment, just our emotional reaction.
Which demonstrates his core principle.
That our own feelings do not depend on externals, but on our own attitudes, reactions, and responses. Tranquilizers simply reduce or tone down our over-response to negative feedback.
He seemed concerned about over-reliance on drugs.
He expresses concern about the medical community's quick reliance on drugs for every imaginable psychological malady, when the solution often lies in our own reactive patterns. Our responses are often conditioned.
Like Pavlov's dog.
Exactly. We become conditioned to respond in a certain way to various stimuli. Stress often arises from having too much to do or trying to do too many things at once, trying to respond to everything.
But this conditioning can be broken. Extinguished.
Yes, by consciously relaxing instead of responding, he offers a powerful key thought. The telephone is ringing, but I do not have to answer it. I can just let it ring.
Choosing not to respond.
This mental picture acts as a trigger or clue to call up the same attitude. And if you can't ignore the response immediately, delay it. Mary S. extinguished her fear of crowds by delaying her urge to flee for just 2 minutes.
Proving she could resist, even briefly.
Which leads to the profound realization that relaxation itself is nature's most effective tranquilizer. Maltz states unequivocally, our disturbed feelings, our anger, hostility, fear, anxiety, insecurity, are caused by our own responses, not by externals.
Response means tension.
Response means tension. Lack of response means relaxation. Scientific experiments prove you absolutely cannot feel angry, fearful, anxious, insecure, or unsafe as long as your muscles remain perfectly relaxed.
Wow. Relaxation cancels out negative emotion physically.
The editor of this book shifted from pacing nervously before speeches to being stretched out casually in a chair, performing mental rituals while physically relaxed. You can learn to be motivated, energized, ready for peak performance without being tense and anxious.
This ability to create internal peace, he formalizes it. The foxhole in your mind.
Yes, or your personal decompression chamber. Each of us needs a quiet room inside the mind, a quiet center within, like the deep of the ocean that is never disturbed.
A mental sanctuary.
Built entirely in imagination to depressurize from tension, worry, pressure, refreshing you to cope better. Dr. Maltz believes everyone has this quiet center. We just need to find this quiet center within us and retreat into it periodically.
Like the CEO going to the zoo.
That highlights the need for retreat, but the mental version is far more convenient for a harried mother or stressed salesperson. Take as much care building this imaginary room, Maltz advises, paying attention to vivid detail, even if it seems childish.
And this internal retreat combats emotional carryover.
Yes. Emotional carryover is when an inappropriate mood from one situation bleeds into another, causing negative outcomes.
Like work stress affecting family time.
Exactly. Or a salesperson carrying frustration to the next customer. It causes many car accidents too, anger leading to bad driving. Carryover is the opposite of concentration.
Focus is the antidote.
Successful performers worship at the altar of focus and concentration because it's key to minute-by-minute success. Elton Colombo's traffic jam thoughts, John Lyons the horse trainer, Greg Louganis the diver, rehearsing 40 times to clear the calculator.
They all mastered focus.
While most people attempt to function without focus, with that whole pot of thought and emotional stew boiling over.
So how do we clear the calculator? The ritual.
Develop your own quick distractions eraser. Maltz taught clearing the calculator visualization, hitting a clear button to remove one problem before another.
Other visualizations.
Wiping a chalkboard clean, a sponge wiping a window, stepping into a shower and rinsing clean. This mental picture can be used as an eraser in as short a time as a few seconds.
Allowing single focus and relaxed performance, preventing mental traffic jams.
Which leads to the overarching principle, maintaining inner stability. In almost any goal-striving situation, our own inner stability is in itself an important goal to maintain. We need sensitivity to feedback, but also need to keep our own ship afloat and stable.
Because inner disturbance comes from over-response.
Inner disturbance is nearly always caused by over-response, a too-sensitive alarm reaction. Practicing, not responding, letting the phone ring, creates a built-in tranquilizer or psychic screen.
The final message.
Stop scaring yourself to death with your own mental pictures. Stop fighting straw men. Emotionally, respond only to what is here and now, and ignore the rest.
He includes an exercise. Practice non-response, seeing yourself sitting quietly and unmoved while an associate rants and raves.
Total inner calm. This stability is crucial when facing the ultimate test, a crisis.
Exactly. Chapter 13 tackles crisis, observing that dichotomy. Some people choke up under pressure, losing ability.
Like golfers or pitchers.
While others perform better under pressure, like salespeople or students during exams. Understanding why pressure affects performance differently is key to consistently and reliably being at your best.
Pressure itself is neutral.
Our response determines the outcome. He explains that learning in a crisis, like swimming for survival, creates a narrow and restricted brain map. Limited options learned under stress.
If overmotivated or anxious, you learn just one way of solving the problem. If that way is blocked, you become frustrated and lose the ability to react spontaneously or improvise.
Like the rats in the maze experiment.
Exactly. Rats learning under hunger-thirst crises had narrow maps, struggled if the route was blocked. People in fire drills taught under anxiety develop fixated responses that don't adapt. Too much tension, too much motivation, or too much anxiety for results jams the mechanism.
So the solution is practice without pressure.
Yes. Shadowboxing, practicing self-expression with no actual inhibiting factors present. This builds a broad, general, flexible map in memory.
So when crisis hits,
You act calmly and correctly due to carryover in your muscles, nerves, and brain. Because learning was relaxed and pressure-free, you can extemporize, improvise, act spontaneously.
like the salesman practicing imaginary interviews.
Or Maltz's shadowboxing surgery on cadavers to learn calmness, deliberateness, clear thinking in a no-pressure environment first. This creates a mental image of yourself acting correctly and successfully.
Allowing us to channel nerves positively. Crisis means point of decision.
Right. A pitcher performing well under pressure focuses on what I'm going to and what I want to happen, not the external threats. This aggressive attitude against threats releases untapped powers.
So remaining goal-oriented turns crisis into stimulus.
It releases additional power, often transforming crisis into yet another opportunity. Like the principle of the troubled high school viewing each crisis as an opportunity to gain trust or respect, building influence one brick at a time, always keeping the picture of the whole in mind.
Shifting perspective transforms anxiety into excitement.
Exactly. Stop thinking in terms of fear, anxiety, or nervousness, and think only in terms of excitement. Experienced actors know pre-performance excitement is a good token.
Like Johnny Carson feeling nauseous but performing?
Or Cavett Roberts, quote, "Don't try to get rid of the butterflies. Just get them to fly in formation."
Channel the energy.
It's not the excitement, but how it is used. But how do we handle truly overwhelming fear of failure, the worst that can happen technique?
Bertrand Russell's technique. Many magnify potential penalty or failure using imagination.
So Russell advised.
Consider seriously and deliberately what is the very worst that could possibly happen. Then give yourself sound reasons for thinking that, after all, it would be no such very terrible disaster.
Confront the worst-case scenario rationally.
This process diminishes worry to a quite extraordinary extent, replacing it with a kind of exhilaration. More effective if you have the self-image of someone who responds well to crisis.
And this ties into the life is long perspective.
Yes, many allow themselves to be thrown off course by minor or even imaginary threats interpreted as life or death.
Like a teenager's breakup seems world-ending then.
But years later, forgotten. A lost sales account seems earth-shaking but is a blur over a career. Life is long. It seems there's always a second act waiting for you if you calmly organize yourself to take advantage of it.
Like Sinatra, Foreman, Regis, Carter.
All examples of impactful second acts, showing resilience and transformation, often driven by a new focus or self-image. Which brings us to the core mechanism of sustained success, that winning feeling.
Chapter 14, that winning feeling. Our powerful servo mechanism is teleological, operates in terms of goals and end results.
Teleological, goal-oriented.
Give it a goal, and its automatic guidance system takes you there much better than you ever could by conscious thought. It supplies the means whereby guiding muscles, supplying ideas, even magnetically attracting contacts.
Like the opposite of worry.
Exactly. Just as worry is picturing failure, vividly and in great detail, repeating failure images, we can reverse this. The simple secret, Maltz insists, is this. Call up, capture, evoke the feeling of success. When you feel successful and self-confident, you will act successfully.
Feel it first, then act successfully.
This winning feeling is a sign or symptom that we are geared for success, like a thermostat measuring heat. When you experience it, Your internal machinery is set for success.
Like Dr. Kerry Middlecoff, the golfer.
Felt, I was sure to win that tournament 4 days before, experiencing a marvelous feeling that gave him a line to the cup just as clearly as if it had been tattooed on my brain.
That's powerful conviction.
This magic can seemingly cancel out obstacles and impossibilities, even using errors and mistakes to accomplish success. And this feeling isn't just innate. It can be learned and triggered.
How? Through memory.
Yes. J.C. Penney built his stores remembering his father's deathbed prediction. I know Jim will make it, giving him the winning feeling. Tony Robbins teaches get into state fast techniques.
And Maltz used it for stage fright.
He recaptured in memory the feeling of success and confidence from talking to small groups, then pictured himself before a huge audience with the same feeling. Something seemed to click. I felt elated.
Connecting past success feeling to future imagined scenario.
It welded the feeling of confidence and success from the past to the picture in my imagination of my career in the future. This is supported by how the brain records success.
The electronic mouse analogy.
Cybernetic scientists built an electronic mouse that learns mazes by making errors, correcting, and remembering only successful turns. The brain records successes and failures by forming electrical tracks or patterns of neurons. This makes the human brain's capacity to learn and remember almost limitless.
And the cycle. Feeling begets action.
Feeling begets action. Action begets feeling or imagined action. Especially memory-based, imagined action begets feeling, feeling begets action. You can strike the spark anywhere in this loop.
Leading to building a habit of success.
Building success patterns into your gray matter. Dr. Elliott, Harvard president, argued school failures stemmed from not giving students sufficient amount of work at which they could succeed early on.
Build momentum with small wins.
Small successes would give students the feel of success, valuable ally in all future undertakings. Like a coach giving easy plays first to establish a sense of success, a rhythm to spark that winning feeling. Or the salesman starting with friendly calls. Fred DeLuca. Make pennies first.
Nothing succeeds like success.
Literally built on success. And we can accelerate this.
Adults can speed up this process, trigger our winning feeling on command without needing that gentle, patient buildup.
Through imagination.
This acceleration must be created totally through imagination, not actuality. Because synthetic and actual experience have virtually identical impact, it can be done in the theater of the mind.
Replaying past successes mentally.
Everyone has at some time or other been successful. Doesn't have to be big. Go back in memory and relive those successful experiences. Revive the entire picture in as much detail as you can. Sights, sounds, environment, objects.
The detail makes it real for the brain again.
The more detailed, the better. Particularly, remember your feelings at the time. If you do, they will be reactivated in the present. You will find yourself feeling self-confident because self-confidence is built on memories of past successes.
So failure feelings aren't inevitable.
They originate from your own mind. They mean you are underestimating your own abilities, overestimating the difficulty, and reactivating memories of past failures rather than successes. We manufacture feelings by selectively recalling memories.
Like exaggerating good traits of someone deceased to justify mourning. We choose what to focus on.
Which leads to that powerful self-declaration.
I am the kind of person who...
Yes.
Yes.
That phrase is incredibly revealing and incredibly powerful. It reveals what is at the core of the self-image, to which all other thought, feeling, action, and outcome must conform.
It reveals how you can lock in that winning feeling. This intrinsic power extends even to our vitality and longevity, right? Chapter 15, more life in your years. Maltz makes a bold personal statement here.
He does. It says he lived a very vibrant, healthy, interesting, and rewarding life into later years, in large part by aggressively working on my psychological health and letting it take care of my physical health.
Mind over matter for longevity.
Explores that connection. Mental attitudes impacting physical well-being, lifespan, quality of life. So just mindset isn't just about happiness, but physical endurance.
Underpinned by science, the life force.
Yes. Dr. Hans Selye's adaptation energy, a basic life force consumed daily as we adapt to stress situations, heat, cold, disease, emotional tension, aging. Selye's found local LAS and general GAS adaptation syndromes.
So negative patterns burn through this energy faster.
They can literally make us old before our time. This life force is evident in rapid healers.
Rapid healers, what was their secret?
Among patients, beyond age, diet, etc., they shared an expectation of healing. Mental attitudes can influence the body's healing mechanisms. Placebos, sugar pills, often lead to improvement. sometimes as much as the actual drug.
The power of belief on physical outcomes, underrated.
Immense. Leads to the conclusion. Expectation and engagement means life. When we curtail mental and social activities, we stultify ourselves, become set in our ways, bored, give up our great expectations.
You could experimentally create an old man.
By convincing a healthy 30-year-old he's old, activity is dangerous, mental activity futile, inducing him to sit in a rocking chair. Conversely, developing nostalgia for the future instead of for the past, and enthusiasm for life, creates a need for more life, and you will receive more life.
Especially relevant to retirement.
Many go downhill rapidly after retirement, feeling their productive life is completed. Boredom, inactivity, loss of self-esteem, develop a self-image of uselessness, and die within a year or so.
So it's retiring from life, not the job.
It is not retiring from job that kills these people. It is retiring from life. The feeling of uselessness is detrimental. Old beliefs like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, are outmoded and unscientific. Learning ability is about as good at 70 as it is at 17.
The speaker who started golfing famous courses
found new passion facing burnout, set a new goal, playing golf in every state. It extended and breathed new life into his career, and quite likely extended and breathed new life into his life.
This life force connects to larger truths. Spiritual.
Maltz acknowledges he doesn't understand the power of the life force or how that force is applied. He cites Dr. Alexis Carrel on healings that Lord's natural healing processes somehow speeded up under influence of intense faith.
Like Dubois. Surgeon dresses the wound, God heals it.
Applies to medication too. Maltz sees no possible conflict between medical science and religion. Medical healing and faith healing both derive from the same source and should work together. Laments the biased lack of cooperation between fields.
The ultimate source of strength.
You cannot believe yourself the image of God deeply and sincerely, with full conviction, and not receive a new source of strength and power, according to Dr. Frank G. Slaughter. The core message. Use these ideas to get more living out of life.
Grounding in profound intrinsic value provides power and purpose. To truly appreciate this, we need the real stories, right? Chapter 16.
Exactly. Chapter 16. The proof is in the pudding, right? True stories. First, the case of the least likely to succeed stockbroker, Sella Quinn.
What was her story?
Born with far above average intelligence, Mensa member, but also a severe cleft lip and palate. Mangled speech, deformed nose, carried a pad and pencil. Children, teachers presumed her stupid.
Huge obstacles. How did she succeed?
Achieved truly extraordinary success as a stockbroker, investment advisor, ultimately president of her own investment firm. Her conversion never easy, combination of necessity and occasional push, gradually discovery abilities. Psychiatrist urged the Mensa exam, proving her intelligence. Crucially, she'd read Maltz and applied his methods. Wow. Shows how profound challenges can be overcome when self-perception shifts. It's not just individuals either, the rodeo team.
Right. The case of the college rodeo team. Doug Butler, impressed by the book, applied its methods to coach a struggling college rodeo team. Developed a plan. New rules, training disciplines, code of behavior, no alcohol, drugs, good grades, grooming, rigorous practice, and daily mental practice using Maltz's techniques.
Shows the versatility works for sports performance too. But maybe the most moving is Jean Sanders.
The case of the woman who could not walk. Jean Sanders, stricken with muscular dystrophy at 10, told less than a year to live, gradual loss of motor abilities, difficulty walking, using hands, hospitals, casts, braces, operations.
Physically devastating.
But despite successful operations, mental scars remained, and they became a greater handicap than did my physical disabilities. Lacked self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-reliance.
The internal scars were worse.
Desperately searched Buddhism, Vedas, until she found Psycho-Cybernetics. Couldn't lay it down. For the first time, I began to gain an insight into my own behavior.
The insight was the key.
Dr. Maltz later wrote of her, "How can Jean Sanders walk and drive a car without the muscle capability required, according to all medical experts? Because of the muscle strength of her self-image, which cannot be so readily seen or medically evaluated. Her story emphasizes, regardless of the cause of darkness, the pathway out into the light is the same, transforming the self-image."
These stories really ring it home. It really has been an incredible deep dive into the new Psycho-Cybernetics. From understanding your self-image as that fundamental blueprint to learning how to literally dehypnotize yourself from false beliefs, finding peace of mind, transforming crises. This book truly offers a remarkably practical roadmap for personal transformation.
Absolutely. And the stories we've heard, Seloquin's inspiring journey, Gene Sanders' triumph over daunting physical and emotional limitations, they really drive home the tangible, real-world power of these principles.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises that important question for you listening right now. What hidden potentials are you unknowingly holding back because of an old, outdated self-image?
This deep dive has clearly shown us that our minds are equipped with powerful, automatic mechanisms literally designed for success. The key, Maltz reveals, is to consciously set clear positive goals, consistently feed your inner steersman positive information, and then learn to trust that incredible inner mechanism to guide you.
Trust the system.
You truly have the inherent ability not just to adapt to life, but to actively create the life you desire, even if it seems impossible right now.
So, as you go about your day, consider this provocative thought. If your nervous system genuinely cannot tell the difference between an actual physical experience and one that is vividly imagined, what new memories and empowering truths will you deliberately choose to create for your self-image starting today?